Hello, Future Bestsellers. Hey, everybody. We are super glad to see you guys here today. I'm Lisa Daly, and we are going to answer some publishing questions and do some writing sprints. With me, as always, my awesome, fabulous co-host. Oops, we got a little excited there, went a little crazy on the mic. Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad you guys are here today. Sorry, I'm just talking. I'm just like blah blah. Don't give you guys a second to jump in.
To do.
I know, but I feel like, whatever. Okay. So hi Robert, how are you today?
I'm good.
Feel free to speak. I'll do this.
Okay.
So tell us a little about you and your awesome channel as everybody's sort of filtering in this morning.
Well, my awesome channel, still on hiatus, is and will still be taking those various forms of storytelling that I learned from a graphic artist working for Marvel Comics and writing and putting various forms of storytelling together under that Sherlockian microscope to break down the craft, give comparisons, and hopefully make your craft journey easier.
Very nice. Very nice. We're very excited about that. Michelle Schusterman is here. Unlike Robert and I, Michelle does not have any problem posting videos, and they're awesome. You guys should definitely check them out. Michelle, we're so glad you're here today. Tell us a little about you and your awesome channel for anybody who doesn't know.
Thank you. I am Michelle. I write middle grade and young adult novels. My channel is writing workshops and traditional publishing chat and writing blogs. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks so much for being here. You guys are awesome. If you don't know me, I'm Lisa Daly. I'm a hybrid published author now. So formerly traditionally published. I don't know, at some point I might go back, but right now I'm like really digging the whole indie publishing thing. And I write romantic comedies and advice books. So anyway, I'm super glad you guys are here today. Let's say hello to some of our friends in our chat. Shannon's here. Hello. We are super glad to see you. Thank you very much for the little like button comment. We really appreciate it. Mary Putnam is here. I'm very glad to see you. Good morning from SoCal. Very nice. BookTube Goddess is here. She has graced us with her presence today. Cool Gamer. Hello. Super glad to see you today. Devin's here. Hello, Devin. We're super happy to see you as well. I was like looking ahead to this username. How do I want to pronounce this?
Sleipnir.
Sleipnir. I don't know. Tell me how. I just made a face when I said that. So that's perhaps not the right way to say it. My natural inclination is to go Sleipnir. Then welcome, and please tell us if we are massacring your name. I am very likely to do that, and I don't want to. So please send us a nice phonetic pronunciation in the chat so we can make sure that we're not just guessing. Anyway, well, we're very glad you're here. Okay. Oh, we got it. Sleipnir. Oh, I love that. Are you like that feel? I don't know. My first thought was maybe an Icelandic name. It's very cool. Like I get like a real like a picture in my head of like a movie character. I'm kind of so anyway. All right, cool. All right, so Sleipnir. All right. Well, thank you very much for the pronunciation. We really appreciate it. Okay, that's it. See you guys next week. No, I'm kidding. Okay. I'm like in dorky mood today. So what is everybody? Okay, so the Horror Geek says that's a strong man name. And Sleipnir says, yes, it's a Norse stallion from mythology, but I'm not from Norway. All right. That's a pretty awesome name, though.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot. Fair warning. I think we're going to see a lot of Sleipnirs in upcoming books. That's a pretty cool name. Right? Like that's such a great. I'm writing a hockey romance, and I'm like, I feel like there's an enforcer with the name Sleipnir. I kind of like that. Anyway, cool. Marty Mary's here. Hello. We are super glad to see you today. All right. Who is ready to write, and what are you guys all going to work on today? Let us know in the chat what you are planning on working on today. And if you guys have any questions that you want us to talk about today, feel free to drop those in the chat as well. We have some really interesting ones. But what's up? What are you guys working on today? Michelle, what about you? What are you working on today?
I'm working on my middle grade mystery. Yay.
How's that coming along?
It's good. I have a draft, but it's like I really rushed the last couple of chapters. I was like, oh, I got to get to the end because I know what I need to go back and fix. So I'm technically revising. So today I'm like, I'm looking at the timeline and writing out kind of from the villain's perspective. Here's how everything kind of played out, so I can make sure everything's all in a row.
Well, that sounds absolutely fantastic. I know I actually really love the first pass of an edit because the book is officially done, even if it needs more work. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, the wordsmithing process I really very much enjoy, and I'm very excited to get to in the book I'm working on now.
Yeah,
I'm very excited to get, right? Like, oh, come on now. I have not written all week. I did not write Monday because I just had like a crazy. Well, that's not true. Did I write? I wrote a little bit on Monday, but not very much. I did not write yesterday, which normally Tuesday is a big writing day for me. But I just had a million other things happen, and you guys know how that is. So, Robert, what are you working on today?
I'm still editing this draft of my manuscript, and I'm setting a deadline to have it finished by the end of this month. That's the plan. I've had some, ups and downs with rewrites that took a little longer, especially in the second half, because there's just more work to be done there. But I just need to get through this thing and get it down by the end of the month.
Well, that sounds like a goal that's pretty achievable. I mean, we're at the beginning of April, so that seems pretty awesome. I will be writing hockey romance today, as I am, I feel like every time. But I'm really hoping to be to the editing phase soon. So I'm super excited about that. Mary Wimbley is here. Hello. We are super glad to see you. Our other Mary Putnam, is going to be working on her Hooker book today, which I'm very excited about. That it's a fascinating story. It's pretty cool. Greenworld is here. Hello. Good morning. We are super, super glad to see you today. All right. So Mary's working on posting my work in progress to a private blog I have set up for it. I don't anticipate any interruptions because I'm spring break and I'm off work. Look at you. Very nice. Is that late for spring break? Maybe not. I guess not for you, right? I know, right? I think about like, I think my kids had it in March, but I guess I don't know. I mean, I remember it probably depends on where you live in the country or even in the world. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I think spring break was often tied to Easter. I know. Yeah. Anyway,
That's right. In Josh's school, most of the schools here, they had spring break was like the first week of March. It was
right.
early, but then this week is like a 4-day weekend because you've got Good Friday and whatever the Monday after.
Okay, so maybe that's it. All right, cool. Okay. All right, go. Let's see. Mary says I'm in Northwest Georgia. All right, so that makes sense. It's all different, and a lot of times Florida and Georgia are similar. I think because I think like the Florida government assumes that there will be tourists coming from Georgia because look, we're in Florida. We've got the beaches. It's nearby. Although I guess Georgia technically also has beaches, but Florida. All right. That concludes my I don't know what I'm trying to say. My travel advisory for Florida today. Let's do a warm-up sprint and hopefully I can get my brain back on track, right? Exactly. All right, let's see. Dun, dun, dun. All right, we got that. Let's get this up and rolling. Okay, so we are going to start off today with a 5-minute warm-up sprint, and you can use that time to get your document open, get yourself mentally prepared to write today, stretch your little fingers, get your water filled up. Here we go. All right, everybody, we're going to do a 5-minute sprint starting in 3. I almost said 3 minutes. 2, 1. Sprint. So I just had this realization, like, that I was like trying to figure something out, and like many people, I have my mouth open while I'm thinking. Like, I put on mascara like doot doot like that. And yes. So anyway, so if you saw me like in the last minute of the thing going like that, that's because I was thinking really hard. I was thinking really, really hard. So let me just, I have a question here that we're going to answer. I thought this was interesting. So it's a longer question. This is the basic of it. I'm going to read the whole question. It says, this is from Amelia. She says, "Hi, Lisa. I happened upon your YouTube, your wonderful, thank you, Amelia. I happened upon your wonderful YouTube video about your foreign rights contract while trying to research foreign translation rights. Poland is building a nuclear power plant. I've been approached by a publisher in Poland regarding foreign rights for my children's book on nuclear power plants. One thing you didn't mention in your video is illustrations. Do foreign publishers pay for them as well? The reason I asked is that they've asked me to give them something regarding conditions of license and fees for me and the illustrator. I do own the illustrations. If you could offer some advice, I'd really appreciate it." Does anybody want to jump in on this, or should I just go? Michelle's like, it's a big question. It's a big question, but it's actually a small question. The answer is they want the rights. Oh, you're muted. Hold on. Go ahead.
Sorry, I've never sold foreign rights, so I'm curious to hear what you say about this.
What? You have all
Yeah,
those
no,
books. Who's got those
Nope.
rights?
Well, my agency mostly, but the IP stuff is all, whatever house, Scholastic or Penguin Random House.
So they just took everything. I would be
Yeah.
Okay, 2 questions. So Michelle has had publishers sitting on her foreign rights for a really long time. Many of those books are going to be past their, like, where you would say present them at Frankfurt or one of the big foreign rights, right? So they're basically just sitting on them. They're not actively selling them. They're not doing anything. If it were me, I would talk to my agent and ask if you could get those, at least those rights, reverted so that you could do something with them. But okay, so that's what I would do with if you have foreign rights that you've not sold. So the question was, she owns the illustrations, which is great, and they've asked her for to sell rights for both the writing and the illustrations. So if she owns the illustrations outright, she can make that deal. Like if it was like a work for hire deal and she's paid for the illustrations for world rights, she can just make that deal with the publisher. And I would split them out so it's not like, $5,000 for the for the illustrations, and I'd say this much for this and this much for that, depending on what they're offering. If you split them out, you can probably get a little more, especially if they'd like to keep your illustrations and make it, kind of a done deal. If you don't own world rights for your illustrations, though, then you're going to need to go back to the illustrator and cut some sort of deal with them. So that is the answer. I hope that is helpful. And if you have more questions on this, feel free to, and this is not, obviously I'm not an agent, but I've done enough foreign rights deals where I feel reasonably comfortable answering that question. Robert, you're our resident artist. Do you have any, am I missing any big art thing that?
I have not brokered any foreign rights deals, but I know that every time we've had things printed with foreign rights, royalties go to everybody who's done a different job on that book.
Right.
But if you're doing your own illustrations, then I guess you have to be careful because they're going to put it together in a lump sum and you're likely going to get offered less, I would imagine, because I would look up what those rights are, try to go in prepared, because otherwise you just might end up getting less.
Yeah, right. And so you definitely want to do that. And I guess that sort of brings up, we have a lot of indie published or aspiring indie published authors that come to the stream. And so this is something that you could face in a lot of different areas. So because a lot of, especially European countries, a lot of the people who live in European countries are fluent in English and often consume English media in English. And so this is connected to, like, let's say I have paid to, which I actually paid to produce the audiobook for 15 Minutes of Shame, which that was a book where Penguin sat on the audio rights for that for 100 years. And I got the rights back to it. And so I am paying the narrator, producer outright for those rights, which means I can sell that audiobook over and over and over again anywhere in the world, but I have paid for those rights up front. So depending on whether the author is the illustrator or the author paid the illustrator, whether it's a royalty situation where you have to give them a piece, or it's a work for hire situation where you've already paid them up front and you own it as though you created it, for years to come.
For a children's book, I think it's kind of equal between the writer and the illustrator, isn't it?
It depends. Yeah, it depends on how you normally do. Like so normally, if you're traditionally published, that's how it works. But sometimes you have an author who is also the illustrator, or sometimes, again, in an indie publishing situation, you might pay outright for the illustrations. So you would, instead of doing a revenue share model, they get all their money up front, but that's all there is.
For comics, everybody gets a slightly different percentage, who they deem is more important. But then when I go to foreign rights site, I know those royalties are a little bit different. So
yeah. Well, cool. All right. Well, I think that was a really good, it's like a very specific question. It's funny because I did that foreign rights video like a million years ago about, like, hey, look at this foreign rights contract, just because I had gotten a deal for foreign rights at the time. And there really weren't any other YouTube videos I could find. So I'm like, oh, I'll put it up there. Somebody might find it interesting. And I'm pretty sure it's like one of my least popular videos ever, as far as the number of views. However, the people who want that video are always really grateful for it. So I go, well, it was like 7 people. It's probably more than that, but I'm like, 7 people watched it. And if they all found it helpful, I don't know how many watched it. It was more than 7, but it wasn't a lot. So anyway, all right, cool. Let me get rid of this banner really fast. We are going to see what our friends have to say in the chat. All right, here we go. Mama Ward is here. Hello. We are super glad to see you. Jim Lamb, very nice. Speaking of Florida, just finished and distributed a news release. Tampa Bay Newswire, April 30th is the deadline for the Florida Authors Publishers Association Annual Book Awards. Is that the deadline to enter the awards, or is that the deadline to enter the awards, or to go to the award ceremony? Just curious. All right. So I'm like, oh, I'm a Florida author. And I think we have at least one more. Heather's a Florida author, right? Laura's here. Hello. Very, very glad to see you today. Laura says, I really want to work on my vampire romance, but the day job must be done. I feel ya. I totally feel that. This snake won't light itself. I don't know what that means, but it sounds awesome. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to start using that as a catchphrase around the house. Anytime the horror geek's like, what are we having for dinner? I'll say, this snake won't light itself, buddy. I don't know what it means, but I love it. I love it already. Avi! Hello, Writeritos. Happy Camp Nana. Oh my gosh, it is Camp Nana this week, isn't it? Glad to have the OG3 like the old live stream days. Yay. Aw, we love it so much. Very nice. Video froze. Uh-oh. Was that me or somebody else?
No, I don't see anything frozen.
Maybe we could just kill the snake. It's a CG snake. No actors were harmed. This is awesome. All right, Mary's got her doc open and her blog open, so she's super productive. We've got snakes for pets here. Can I say that's something I never understood? And back in my single girl days, I would literally, if someone told me that they had a pet snake, done. Last date ever. Can't do it. Never, like, I don't even want to find out. This could be like your true love and you missed your big opportunity, but I could never live with a snake. And my brother had one when we were growing up, and he used to have all these little like salamanders, and they were forever escaping their little terrarium and getting into the laundry. My room was next to his, and I just spent much of my childhood like, ah! So I did not ever want to repeat it. So yeah, there was that. Ooh, Laura's got some goodies for us today. Love, love, love. The cold night air whipped through Hadrian's long black coat, the snapping of the leather, the only sound he made as he traversed the shadowed streets in the vampiric Morozov Bratva territory. Sorry if I just mangled that. Love, love, love. That's awesome. Avi says, really love this topic because I've always been mindful to keep my foreign rights, whether traditionally published or self-published, but as an international author, it makes sense. Never thought about illustrations. I know it's a good question. We have some good questions. All right. Snake talk is giving me the heebie-jeebies. Me too. Me too, baby. All right. Well, speaking of writing questions, etc., let's go ahead and do our first sprint today. We're going to do 20 minutes on the clock. But if you have a writing question for us today, be sure to ask that. If not, that's cool. We will. I have a bunch that were sent to me over the week, so we've got some to do that. Dun, dun, dun. All right, here we go. Okay. Here we go, everybody. We got the 3 floating. That was the closest I could get. Okay, we are going to do a 20-minute sprint. We're going to get those little fingers moving and our brains moving and our manuscripts done. So here we go, everybody. Starting off in 3. I love the enthusiasm, Michelle. 2. Let's do a big cheer for our readers. Yeah! 1. Let's hit it. Okay, so this is kind of funny. I could not get back to the screen. I was like, it's gone. Okay, so let me get rid of this banner so it doesn't annoy the heck out of us. All right, here we go. All right, so how did everybody do on our first sprint?
Good.
Most of the time was spent trying to find where I left off on a previous chapter so I could transfer some things and rewrite. But
so you had 19 windows open too. How about you, Michelle? How'd you do?
Good. I came up with actually something for the villain's motive, I think is how I should say this. It's hard to be vague. Sorry. That actually gave me an idea for a way to make the final, like the climactic scene, a little bit more satisfying. So yeah,
nice.
and I rewarded myself by watching a short clip of Stephen Colbert.
That's so funny. I love that, but it's good, right? It's very good.
Just had to say that in case anybody saw me over here, like giggling towards the end of the sprint.
I think that I don't know. For me, I would think like if I looked up and saw you giggling, I would think you had written something funny. If I'm giggling, you can be sure. Well, I might be watching something, but I'm probably just laughing at my own jokes. I don't know if that's something good or bad. All right, Avi's got a question. How can I proactively check my pacing? Is it a feeling I get when I read this book is moving too fast, too slow? Or can only alphas, betas, CPs determine whether pacing is good or bad? Who would like to take this question? Who'd like to jump on first?
I would definitely say you can do it. You don't have to rely on your betas. No, I think a feeling is, yes. The thing I use when I talk about that gut feeling or whatever is, are there any scenes or any spots in my draft when I'm reading through it where I find myself wanting to rush through it because I'm bored? Right? And just to be really honest with myself and say, okay, well, if I'm bored, anybody's going to be
everybody. You're right. If you're not even interested.
Yeah. What's wrong with this scene?
Yeah, exactly. Or sometimes you have, as you're writing, you have to write up to the scene where the exciting stuff starts. I had a similar issue with this, right? I was writing this sort of setup, and then what I realized was I really wanted to get to this big scene where all the interesting stuff was happening, and it was ultimately what I decided, and it took me a really long time. Like I really struggled with the beginning of the book. And ultimately what I decided was I need to start with the good part, get them sucked in, and then I can't write. So if you're feeling bored as you're writing, that is a good sign. One, it might be your pacing, or two, maybe you're telling parts of the story that don't actually need to be told in that way. Maybe you can just use those details, some of those details easily in backstory to keep things rolling along and exciting. But I think this is such a good question.
That reminds me of, I can't think of who this was, but way back when I first started writing, some author's blog that I followed, her advice was, she was like, every author, when you're writing a draft, we all have candy bar scenes, like the scenes like you're saying, Lisa, that you're looking forward to writing the most. And she's like, my best advice to you is to think about how you can make every scene a candy bar scene.
Right? All candy bars.
What one thing could you add or do to it that will make you like really excited about writing that scene?
Yeah, I think that is absolutely spectacular advice. And the thing is, most writers are also readers, and if you're not, you should be. And so you do, right? We do develop a feeling for this is dragging, because that's the magic of writing. I think sometimes is that you can write a book and go back to it a year later or a couple months later, even sometimes. And if you are getting sucked into the story, even though you wrote it and you literally know everything that's going to happen, but you still find yourself sucked in the story, that means you've done a good job. If you are reading your stuff and you start to feel like get there, then that's also a sign, right? You've got to tighten that up and make more. I love that. expression candy bar seeds. That's make it all candy. It's one big Easter basket, your manuscript, with no yucky stuff. Right? No yucky stuff in there. Yeah. So I think that is good. And then the other thing is pacing is different, obviously, at different times in the book. Obviously, the end of the book, as you're reaching your conclusion, your pacing is speeding up, and so you end up with shorter paragraphs, shorter sentences, shorter chapters, and all of that. But that's something that
really.
What was that?
I said that's a big key right there. If you feel that the pace is too slow, shorten sentences, shorten paragraphs, cut down on description. I've seen people try to do pages of complete dialogue, and sometimes that can work. But if you're not really a seasoned pro and good at dialogue, you need to reestablish little things. But people can, while they're in the middle of a hectic scene and talking, they will do nervous things or glance at this or that. And you can put those things in quickly and reestablish and still make it seem like nervous tension and keep the pace going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Love this question. This was definitely a good one. Mary's like, yay, all candy. Or as author whose name I'm blanking on, leave out the boring parts. It was, oh my God. I am also blanking. I know exactly who you're talking about. Who is the author who wrote Jackie Brown?
Oh.
We're all blanking now.
Google.
So it's surely someone that's how to use the Google machine. Jackie Brown. I'm going to look. Jackie Brown book. Of course, it's like all the books. Elmore Leonard.
Yeah,
Elmore Leonard was the one that was
like just said it in the chat. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Elmore Leonard is the one who said that about basically leaving out the boring parts. I'm sure, actually, I take that back. I'm sure many authors over the years have said, leave out the boring parts, right?
Yeah.
That's always our goal. Elmore. Oh, that's fantastic. I've always loved his work. And I have always wondered if he was a very interesting character, but I don't other than like Book Expo all those years ago, I don't tend to inhabit the same event or the same conferences that Elmore Leonard would. So what gives? Was he lovely? Was he awful? Did he have a little rotten dog that made a mess all over the conference area? What happened, Mary? We need to know. And you should know, Mary and Dave Putnam, her husband, who's a mystery author, are like two of the nicest people you will ever meet. So if anybody was going to have a great experience with Elmore Leonard, it was going to be Mary and Dave Putnam. So we want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. We want to hear how he was. So he was lovely. Okay, that does not shock me at all. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. All right, BookTube Goddess has a similar question. I get feedback that my pace. Can't speak. I get feedback that my pacing is too fast, and I struggle to slow it down because I worry it's boring to lead up to the action points. Do you get is that like what they're telling you, what your betas are telling you as far as your pacing? Are they literally using the words too fast, or are they giving you other comments about that? And Michelle or Robert, either one of you guys have thoughts on this particular question?
You could do the opposite and pack a little more description and a little more into those sentences and paragraphs to slow things down.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for places to give the protagonist a little more inner narration, like a little more development.
Yeah, so that was what
the action moments mean more.
Right. That is actually what I was thinking of as well, just reading this, is that that sometimes you need, if it feels like the pacing is too fast, it means we need a little more inner monologue or a little more context from the POV character, and that'll help, because a lot of times when it feels like pacing is fast for the reader, what it means is like that went by and I don't really, like, I didn't get a chance to engage with the scene, or it was so fast I'm not quite sure why that scene mattered. And so right, and so every scene you're trying to progress the plot, but if it feels like you're progressing it too quickly, it could be that we don't understand why it's important. And you can have action that moves fast without sort of slowing that down. And you don't want to put it, especially with an action point, you don't want to layer in too much, but a little more probably is going to help out with that issue.
It's like, yeah, you want the balance between, even if you think about like the most high octane action movies out there, like think about Die Hard, which I think is incredibly well paced. There are plenty of beats where you get to see John McClane pause and have some reflection, and there he has like an emotional arc, and the movie gives him that. And then when the crazy goes down and it's like moving fast, you care more about him.
Right. Right. But and that's exactly true. Right. So when some of those key moments happen where he's very worried about about Hans Gruber making a connection between him and his wife, who has, her last name is Gennaro. So you see all of that ahead of time. And then when there's that moment where I can't remember the slimy guy's name, who's like, "Hey, I'm going to make a deal with my buddy John," and almost gets everybody killed. That guy, cocaine guy. When that guy comes in, like, it heightens the tension so much because John McClane is trying to keep that from from Hans Gruber and team, and Holly is trying to keep it. And so that beautiful tension, and then here comes cocaine guy in there to just screw everything up. So yeah, absolutely. And that's it, right? So stakes is another good way to that sort of internal monologue about what things mean and what the stakes are in any particular situation. Does that help, BookTube Goddess, or tell us if we need to go more on it, or if we completely skipped over something? All right.
Speaking of stakes,
yes,
we didn't talk about this last week, but the previous week we mentioned the show Poker Face, and Michelle mentioned that race car driver show. Talk about stakes and the tightness of the script and everything that's planted in there that has meaning. That was really well done.
Right.
Oh my gosh, right. I love how that one was plotted. We can't say why because Lisa hasn't watched it yet.
Yeah.
I know. I'm dying. I have, what? I was actually going to watch it this weekend, and because if it comes so highly recommended from you guys, I knew it was going to be good. But I ended up getting sucked into Mr. Selfridge this weekend. Like, I haven't had like a lazy be a bum. He is an American merchant who opened Selfridges in the UK back in the 1800s, and it's a fascinating story, all during the war, and he was beloved and sometimes hated, and it's a fascinating series. It has Jeremy Piven in it, who I will admit I do not love. But the rest of the cast, I mean, he's good in it. I just don't love him. But I don't know why. I shouldn't even. There's something about the way he plays characters. Like, I really loved him in Entourage, because that felt like such a good marriage of actor and role. But but Mr. Selfridge was sort of known as a more benevolent figure, and I don't know if I associate Jeremy Piven with the Entourage Ari agent guy, and I just can't get over it, or I don't know what it is. Anyway. All right. And Mary Putnam's like, steaks. Avi says writing is being like a director where you slow down for dramatic effect and speed up to ramp up tension. No wonder storytellers are like gods in some cultures. I feel like it should be in all cultures, right? At least this is like the meaning of the god. That's our new name for our live stream, the meaning of the gods. It's just all the authors, writers, creative people. That's it. We'll see how that goes over. Okay. Very, very good. And now Mary's hungry for lunch. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and do our next sprint. Hold on. I accidentally there we go. All right. I lost my timer for a second because I was such a dork and was unable to get over here fast enough. All right. On one hand, it's great, right? Because if you're like so into the, so into the writing that you're like, what, 20 minutes has gone by? It's awesome. But if you can't find, you're on a live stream and you can't find your open window, not as good. Okay, guys, we are going to put another 20 minutes up on the clock. Let us know how you're doing today. Keep that writing going. And we are going to get started with our second sprint in 3, 2, 1. Let's cha-cha. Okay, I was really good this time so that I could find the stream when I came back. All right, let's get rid of that. So we have some more questions. How did everybody do on that last sprint? Let us know in the chat. Donnelling Writers here. Hello. We are super glad to see you today. Oh, my bracelets are very so Dawdling Writer, we are super glad you're here today, trying to get the rest of a scene rewritten this hour, then I can move on to another. Very nice. Rose Lane is here. Hello. We are super glad to see you today. Okay. Bringing us to our next question, interestingly enough about trying to get a scene rewritten. Dun dun dun. Question number 3. How long does it take you to write a full novel? I'm going to start with you, Michelle, our ghostwriter extraordinaire, as you're cranking those suckers out day in and day out. So how long does it take you to write?
For what I usually write, which is like a middle grade novel that's between 40 and 50,000 words, I would say 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
That's the average for me. But of course, there are exceptions.
Right.
Sometimes I'm faster, sometimes I'm much slower.
Yes, I feel that. Well, that makes sense. I'm about the same. So mine usually come in around 75,000, and it generally takes me about 4 months from start to finish, although not this year or last year, but generally speaking, that was my habit.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm actually trying to get that up to be able to do, like, if I could get it to 3 months, I would be super happy with that, but so far not happening yet. Still working on it, still stretching those muscles. How about you, Story Detective?
Well, oddly enough, the book length doesn't matter, because no matter whether it's a shorter or a longer novel, I seem to take like 2 to 4 months on the average per draft. And sometimes I've gotten a draft done in 1 month doing nano, or sometimes even not doing nano. So it varies and depends on what I'm writing, I guess.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. How about you guys in the chat? Anybody want to weigh in on this one? How long does it take you to write a full novel? All right, so I have another question, which this actually was not a reader question. It was something that we talked about with my romance author mastermind rom-com group last week. We have a little weekly Zoom chat where we, hang out and talk about kind of news of the day. And I will tell you, those ladies are so well informed. I generally feel like I read a lot about publishing. I talk about it. I'm, neck deep in it every day. And yet every week when I go on with them, there's somebody's always like, oh, have you heard about, Amazon replacing every 14th period with like stuff that's so in the weeds? It's amazing. But this is a topic that we started talking about, was about writing superstitions, about things. Because I was saying like, I started off the week really well last week, but then I sort of petered out by the end of the week. And I don't know how we started getting because we were talking about hockey, right? Because hockey players often have a lot of superstitions. I'm writing a hockey romance. Okay, that's how we got there. So we started talking about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think of myself as being superstitious. But what I realized was I had a spectacular writing day last Monday, and I had like gone to Starbucks, and I had tried these little egg bites, which are just like, they're like little mini egg souffles with bacon and Gruyere. They're delicious. And, right. And I'd had that and a pink drink, and that was and then I wrote like the wind on Monday. And so what did I do on Tuesday? I got up and I went to Starbucks and got that same breakfast. And then I realized also, hold on, I was wearing Lucky Writing socks all week. All week.
That's funny.
I don't think of myself as being superstitious, but like if I have a good writing day, I will often try to like duplicate everything for the next day, right? Especially if you have, gone through a period where you're struggling. So I've just spilled for all to see all of my shame. You know what I've been eating for breakfast for the last 10 days. You know what I've been wearing. I had to like wash those socks in the sink just to get them, yeah. Okay.
That's
so
funny.
what still? Confess. Let's hear it. What are your writing superstitions? Robert, you have any?
I don't know that I really have any superstitions. I do try to keep the flow going when something is working, much like you said, and it'll work for a while, and then I have to switch things up. So I guess my one big superstition is don't lose my mornings, because if I'm kind of on a schedule or I'm early to bed, early to rise, I just get more accomplished. And when I lose that schedule, I accomplish a lot less.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if I have superstitions. I mean, I have habits for sure.
Right.
And but if something happens to throw off my routine, but I need to write, I'll still write, and I don't feel like, oh, this is going to be a bad day.
Right.
I don't feel superstitious.
I don't mean so much where I feel like, and I was surprised at how, like, first of all, again, I don't think of myself as being superstitious, but I think for me, I was like, I want to recreate whatever magic, like, especially because if you're struggling, which I have been the last couple of years, if you're struggling with writing and then you have a win, you're like, okay, I need to duplicate everything that I did that day, which is how you end up eating the same breakfast 9 days in a row, and wearing the same weird socks. And so, so for me, that's like what it was, where I'm trying to recreate that sort of optimal condition for writing. I was surprised about how many of the RAM ladies, and they are all of them like multi-published, cranking out books, making a living doing this, and in most cases a good living. And I was surprised at how many of them had like weird little things. So Eva says, no superstitions for me, but maybe I should find some. Also, that's adorable. That's how sports ballers do it too. Win a game. Those are now lucky socks, and that's a lucky breakfast, right? That's what happened. So this is how I ended up like, it's how I end up with a lot of my things. And there is some good evidence about creating a writing routine every day and sticking to it, because then it just, your brain instantly knows like, oh, it's writing time. And so there's something to that. But
I guess if we look at superstition as being a fear, my recent one is, since I haven't been on social media, is don't let too much of the world in, because it just distracts you. There's so many things out there that can pull you in different directions, and social media, the pointless arguments, and the world is just there to divide us and have everybody take sides on everything. And you can end up in a pointless argument over almost any statement you make. So it's like, wow, do I want to go back on social media? And if I do, how much time do I want to spend there?
Right. I know. I have definitely, as far as my social media, been a lot more out than in, as far as like what I'm kind of taking in. I do feel like we have such a nice, like our little live stream, we have such a nice group, everybody who comes every week. So I don't feel like we have, like, I feel like this feels like a good environment to kind of talk about stuff. But I think we talked about this before. I had taken, I've been taking a new sabbatical since like November, and occasionally I'll sort of jump back in. Like, I know what happened this week, but I wish I didn't. I wish I just stayed in my bubble and not thought, about, any of the stuff going on. So, it's definitely, we need to do things like that. Love this. Okay. So Mama Ward says, not really, but I feel like I do best if I get up before dawn, and I will get up from writing to watch the sunrise. If I feel off, I clean my writing area or the house to refresh the energy. It's a feng shui thing. I am all about that. I am all about that. Yeah. Well, maybe I am more superstitious than I thought. I don't really think so. Although I don't really think about, like, the idea about feng shui. One of the ideas about feng shui is that if you have clutter, it like blocks your chi, which is like your life energy. And I think there's like, certainly there's some truth to the fact that I don't feel as good and creative when my desk starts to get crazy as I do when I, there you go. Eva says, I look out of the bubble to stay aware, but I don't interact more. That was it. Like, I've always been pretty aware of what's going on in the world and fairly well read. And I just got to a point this year where I'm like, yeah, I just need to like take a break from being a very engaged citizen. And I don't, and I feel like after all my years of being an informed citizen, like, I feel like, okay, I've earned this vacation from the news. I'll take it. Amy, hello. I had to completely cut myself off from doom scrolling just to keep my sanity level. Yeah, right. So
yeah,
true.
and I have two different groups. I mean, I have the comic book group and the writing group. So there's different arguments. So it becomes twice as easy to get pulled into things. There was I try not to get political or too caught up in the news stuff, but there was before I left off social media, an artist posted something about Elon Musk, and I kind of agreed with him. And for some reason, that made me the target of some weird marketing guy that came on and started calling me every name in the book. And I'm like, I don't need this.
You're like, who are you? And why do you suddenly hate me? Yeah, I know. I know. It doesn't feel, I don't know. I just feel like I'm kind of which is bad, right? When we stop talking and listening to each other as human beings, things are not going to get better that way.
Yeah.
But also, we kind of have to protect ourselves, and that, like, it can be so draining emotionally to have and especially if you're trying to create something from scratch, to have all of your mental energy drained away is something that we have to do. So yeah,
and I
absolutely.
think a big part of it is we talk about being informed like it's a good thing, and it is a good thing. But when in human history have we ever been able to be informed about literally every event,
Everything.
every hour of the day in the entire world? We're not. Our brains aren't meant to constantly taking all of that in.
No,
it's okay if you don't know everything.
It is okay if you don't know everything. And my whole theory is, like, if it's big enough, someone will tell you about it.
Yes.
And so there is something about that. I have to keep the horror geek out sometimes because
it's great for building stress, but it's the enemy of focus.
And creativity. Your brain, your amygdala literally takes over your brain. So when you're having that stress response, which can be to something that you're reading about or experiencing, both are true, that it shuts down the creative part of your brain, because its whole job is to, like, get you away from the bear. But if you're reading and you're activating that every single day, I'm like this, like a light goes on, then you're just you're cutting yourself off. I guess you're kind of harming your work.
Yeah.
So
getting back to that weird marketing guy, I mean, I looked in the artist who I'm friends with, his friends, to see if it was a friend of a friend, and he wasn't. I guess he was just some fan that was following this particular artist. After jumping on me, then he said what I said was kind of interesting, and he said he wanted to learn from me, and he actually followed me over to my social media and my YouTube channel and started making comments. So it was really, like, strange and harassing, and I said, I do not want to deal with you after what you said, so just
block. I know it. We can go on for this, but let's not. So you sent me a really interesting little thought on Facebook this morning, which again, like, I'm so, like, siloed, and I'm only in writer world in Facebook. I'm like, nobody else talk to me, just in writer world in Facebook, on Facebook. So you had sent something over today about, we were talking about craft, and I was saying that I thought it would be really interesting for the stream. So can you tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll, chit chat.
Yeah. I had just finished reading Lawrence Block's From Print to Pixel to whatever the book is, on writing. And being a guy who spent over 50 years in the business and also spent 14 of those years writing for Writer's Digest, I guess we should think about some of the things that he said, because he's comparing writing in 1978 to 2015. And he recommended that newer writers start in first person. And this was something we touched on with point of view in one of our last question Q&A sessions. And he said first person is more intimate And for a new writer, that intimacy can be a thing that pulls them forward, where if you're too omniscient, you may lose some of that. And he said it's kind of like the he said, she said argument. And it's a new thing where you want to be trendy and you want to do what's popular, but you're kind of putting the cart before the horse and starting trends of things that are your opinion and really don't have a foundation in the industry, because the books maybe you read in high school, or you say, oh, there's so many books written in first person that's passé, so I just want to skip it. But I had a lot of teachers, you know, in both art and writing that said, try different things. You'll never know unless you experiment. And I feel like people are just going out there with their mind made up and not really trying different things that might give them a different voice for a different story. It's all the same. I see the, you know, the writing not changing over the past year or more, publishing book after book, and the experimentation isn't there. And maybe they should think about things that were popular before the industry started falling apart.
I think there's, I thought, so the thing that I was fascinated by about this particular topic was the idea that you should consider writing in first person in order to like become closer with your readers. Like marketing wise, I'm like, that's a spectacularly wonderful idea. Like I really, and obviously not first person's not right for every book. It's not right for every writer. We had a whole conversation about why do people hate first person POV, but I love this idea. And it makes me think about, I was giving an author I know advice on writing his newsletter, and he had written his newsletter, like part of it was first person, but the rest of it was like, you know, Schmedley will be at this event, or this is what people are saying about Schmedley's book, or that it was all like, other than just a little section at the top, it was all third person with the way he was talking about himself. And yet with a newsletter, you want to be like, you want your reader to feel like, I just got a little quick note from my favorite author. And so, and then what I was saying, and like literally just yesterday was saying, like, when you're writing in third person, this creates some barriers between you and the reader, and especially in a newsletter, right? You really want to endear them to you. So, yeah, so I think, but I hadn't thought about that as far as building a readership that really feels connected to your work. I think that's pretty interesting.
And the one example that Block gave, he said, for example, you could say in, you know, first person, you know, I walk down the street, or no, how did he put it? I'm losing it. There was something about him saying past tense, present tense is what it was. And he said, you know, in past tense, he walked down the street, his arms were dangling at his side. And then present tense is he walks down the street and his arms are dangling at his side. And he said the second version in present tense can easily sound like something from an outline or a treatment. And it sounds like a pencil sketch rather than something more solid.
Right.
And the present tense has more nuance involved than past tense. And a lot of newer writers that don't understand the nuance may jump into present tense and suffer for that too.
That is a really good point. Of course, all mine are almost, no, I should say all, a lot of my books are first person POV present tense, but that's also something that's super common in the genre. So it's really interesting. All right, Bomba Ward says, I wrote one book with 11 first person POVs and I managed to keep the personalities distinct by using 15 different music playlists, but to be honest, I thought I would be schizophrenic when I was done. I can totally see that. All right, we have 12:42. We have time to do one more sprint. So I feel like we should do it. Let's make this day like really, really count. And hold on one second. Apparently we've lost our timer. Let me go back and grab that again. There we go. Okay. Oops, I said that. Everybody got all excited, but could I make it happen? Not yet. All right, there it comes. Ta-da. Okay, guys, this is our very last writing sprint. We're going to get our little fingers going and make it count. All right, here we go. Get ready. 3, 2, 1. Best writing of the day right now. All right, we're back. I did it. I found the thing. I'm super excited. That feels like a major accomplishment for the stream. So there we go. So I am super excited. I wanted to say, well, let's quickly do little comments here. Mary just want to say goodbye. Thank you so much. We're all so glad to see you. This has been fun. I feel like we had a lot of good questions answered. I actually got some writing done today, so I'm very excited about that. How'd you guys do? Everybody in the chat, Michelle, Story Detective, how did you guys do for your writing?
Pretty well.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Same. Yes.
Glad to hear it. All right. Well, we're running a couple minutes over, so let's go ahead and wrap this up quickly. But thanks so much, you guys, for all being here today. Before we go, Story Detective, will you tell everybody real quick about you and your channel?
My channel is The Story Detective, where I take various forms of storytelling and put it under a Sherlockian microscope and break down the craft to make your journey easier. And hopefully not make the same mistakes that I did.
That's a beautiful sentiment, Robert. Michelle, tell us a little bit about you and your awesome channel.
All right, I'm Michelle. I'm a young adult and middle grade author, and my channel is Writing Workshops, Traditional Publishing Chat, and Writing Vlogs. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you so much for being here, both of you, and also everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. We love it that you guys are here every week. So, all right, with that, we are going to take off. Thank you so much for being here today, and we will see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Hey, everybody.